Welcome to HR Are You Listening podcast. This is your host, Marta Fernandez, an HR journalist. And today we have an amazing guest, Eva Bendaña.
Yay.
How are you, Eva?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Are you excited to be in this podcast?
I'm excited and nervous, so we'll see what happens.
Why? What are you nervous about?
Oh, because I'm a human and I'm doing something new, so I'm nervous, but I'm excited to see the outcome.
Okay, yeah, for sure. FYI, I'm also nervous. This is my first time doing a podcast, so it's a learning curve for both of us. We will learn while we share experiences, right? This is all about,
Beautiful.
yeah. Before anything else, let's start with introducing yourself properly. Can you tell us who is Eva Bendaña to our amazing audience?
Of course. Yeah, so I am Eva. I'm from Nicaragua. I have two specialties, I would say. I am a specialist in customer service with 16 years of experience in that area, and I'm also a professional photographer. So I've done many other things in life, but I would say those are two of the things that most characterize me.
Wow. So it seems like you have done a little bit of everything, right? How
Yeah.
long have you been in the United States, right? You recently moved to the United States, you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I just moved to the States. I'm living in California and I've been here for 5 months right now. So it's been a huge shift from what I was doing in Nicaragua to what I'm doing now here, which is still customer service related, but life is completely different. Lots of
Wow.
learning happening.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Actually, I can't even imagine what it means to move to another country and start all over again. Though the experiences that you have been exposed to, which I'm happy for you being in this part of this podcast, because I'm sure you have different perspective and different learning opportunities that you have experienced as you build your career. With no further ado, let's start, Eva. What do you have in store for us today? What do you have for us today?
Yeah. So you told me to come here with a story about my professional experience or my experience in the workforce, which I am almost 40 years old now. So I've had quite some experience in the workforce. And so I wanted to talk about this was my second official work that I had. I was starting in customer service and I was working at a call center in Nicaragua. It was a call center that really it's a worldwide corporation. So they have offices in the United States and in many other countries. And they had just recently opened when I was still in college. I was 22 years old. And all it really required was for me to speak English, which I did. So I applied. And that's what I would say was really my first real job where I felt that I was challenged and I did so much learning there. And I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, like, and it's an American company, like it's a corporate.
It's a corporation based in the United States, but they had just opened new offices in
Their office.
Nicaragua. They were starting the call center.
Right. So I think that's interesting because I guess that also sets some expectations of what type of work experience you might have, right? If it's an American company, it'll be a bit different than what you might likely find in the Nicaraguan.
Yeah, because I did, like I said, I did have experience before this job, but nothing that I felt that was like something where I learned how to work, how to be a worker, how to find the skills that I need or that I have within me and try to go up the corporate ladder. So that was my first real experience. I was in a call center before that was Nicaraguan, and the experience was absolutely not like this.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited. It's the first time entering to this type of work environment. There's a lot of expectations. There's a lot of growth, right? The fact
Yeah.
that it's in English, it comes to another whole level experience, how you even experiencing your work environment.
Yeah.
Tell me what happened.
Yeah, it was really exciting. First of all, it was like the pay just in Nicaragua, just for working in English. The pay was probably, I can't remember now, but it was probably more than double what I had been making previously. So that just for me was just so exciting. I was 22 years old. I was actually going to start making money that I could use for whatever experiences I wanted to have at that moment. So it was really good. So when I started, they would start bringing people in what they call wave. So I was wave number 2. I was very in the beginning. And in the interview process, that was the first time I ever encountered an experience where there was more than one job interview. Before, whatever I had done, it was one job interview. And then they would either call me to say, you didn't get it or you got it. Here, I went through several interviews. And within that process, I was explained that since it was a beginning, it was still beginning, there were many chances to grow within the company. And that just like
Click.
clicked and
Yeah.
stayed inside me. And I was like, oh, money.
And
Let
they
me get
wrote.
some of that. And let me get some of that money. So I started working and training, and I found that English I grew up, my parents went to college here in the United States. So I was a child when I learned English. I started seeing what I felt set me apart from the others and what I was learning faster, or like what I could learn from whoever was training us or who I could see were supervisors. I was always observing everything. So within 2 months, I think, of starting, it didn't come with a pay grade, but I was turned into a mentor. So I was now helping to train the new trainees.
Do you think, just quickly, do you think like retrospectively you thought that you were ready and prepared to be a mentor? Or you just took the opportunity because that meant for you,
Oh,
oh, this is a promotion. I'm standing now from the rest of the people that I have started. What was your thought very quickly on this topic? Because it sounds like you got an opportunity and you took it. You just mentioned that they didn't
yeah.
have no money increase or anything, right? So
Yeah.
what was your thought?
I took it immediately. I didn't really care that there was no money involved, but it meant that I was being seen as a person who is learning fast and who is able to transfer that every what I'm learning to other people. That just meant that I was on track with my initial thought of I want to grow within the company. And the only way to do that was to just absorb all the information I was receiving, which is so much, but just absorb, learn. And it's not like it's like I am a nerd in the sense that I like to learn, but I don't have discipline. I just concentrated on being present in what I
Right.
was doing every time.
There's a lot of stimulation. Like you were stimulated because the constant
Yeah.
change, the
Yeah.
fast speed of things were moving up, that
Mm,
made you very engaged. If it wasn't another way, then you'd be like, oh, disengaged. But I think because you just mentioned it was fast speed, it's this growing company, things are moving fast. That made you
yeah.
so focused and driven to continue, like,
Uh-huh.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when I was there mentoring, I had a quick experience that I don't want to concentrate too much in, but at some point there was an older lady who was very slow to learn and to understand the processes of whatever we were doing. She was not tech savvy, and we're computers, and it was a cell phone company that we were working with. So it was a lot of technology. And I asked her once, if you call for me for help and you're not ready to ask your question, please wait until you're ready because I need to be available for other people. But that lady, for example, she got upset and complained to someone else, and that someone else told her, don't complain to me, go to HR and complain to them, which I thought was a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then HR decided to just remove me from the mentoring program. Just
Wow.
like that, no questions asked. They didn't even tell me. I was
Wait.
later.
So the fact, just briefly, the fact that you, I can, I just cannot fathom of someone saying something and escalated so quickly to a point that you got
Yes.
removed without any investigation or any questioning. They took a face
Yeah.
value from this older person. And do you think that with this sort of experience that you had at
Mhm.
such a young age, because you were
Yes.
22, do you think that you took it personal? Oh, is it me being wrong? Or do you took it as a someone stabbed me in the back? Like, what's your thought?
Yeah.
We experience things like 10 times more than what there actually are.
Very emotionally. At that moment, I didn't really know why I was being removed. I wasn't told. I was just told somebody complained and you need to go sit down and start taking calls and actually like work as the customer service
Mhm.
representative that I was supposed to be. So to me, I got upset because I didn't. I think I wanted to be mentoring. I felt that I was the right person to do it, but I didn't want to fight it either because I didn't think I was too aware of the situation. I'm sorry, aware enough to be able to actually confront it in a strong way, like an empowered
Yes.
way. I let it go. And then what happened was she quit and they asked her why. And she said, oh, because Eva was not nice to me and she was rude. And so they sit me down because she wanted to quit. She returned and then she quit the next day anyway. So it wasn't my fault. It was her just transferring this emotion that she has towards me because it's easier to blame me for her wanting to leave
I
the
guess,
job.
yeah, I guess in that aspect, like you knew to be a 22-year-old girl in this environment and actually have someone older than you that you need to mentor. There is a lot of confrontations between
Yeah.
age. I think
Yeah.
that is actually a thing. And we know that in America, in our culture, it's always viewed like if you have a younger person being your boss or being a mentor, it's some sort of
Mhm.
like weird energy. And so when an older
Yeah.
person says something, it's like the older person said something. So it must be right or it must be
Mhm.
correct. And
Yeah.
not really provide the value or pay attention to the younger person who, in your case, you were right, you did everything correctly. And so I find it interesting that you were very self-aware, but also more than anything else, I find it interesting that you just push it out. I'm not gonna even bother on this scenario because that's what it sounds like. You didn't want to be
Yeah.
fade into, let me not put my energy into this, let me move forward, which a lot of people normally get uncomfortable with that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was concentrated on I wanted to be a boss, and a boss is not going to have a petty argument over
Right.
an older lady who ended up quitting anyway. And they returned me to mentoring a week later after they sat me down because they needed me there. So I
Mm,
understood that I was needed. And so sometimes I always tell people, you got to pick your battles. And
yeah.
that wasn't a battle I was willing to go into because
Yeah.
my view of what I wanted was so much bigger.
Yeah. You had this ambition. You had an ambition of, I want to grow.
Yeah, that was just a little extra on the road. And actually, I ended up finding out a few months later that the person who the lady had complained to that told her to go to HR, he told me, he himself told me when this happened, I wanted to let you know that was my fault, he told me. I told her to go complain about you because I didn't like you and I also thought you were rude. And I want to apologize. What's funny is we had with this person, this coworker, we had a lot of friends in common or coworkers we got along with in common. And so in the call center industry, a lot of the times you get off shift and you're getting off shift with 40 other people or 60. And it's like you make friends and you go out drinking or for dinner or whatever. So we would end up meeting at places all the time, and he would be very rude to me.
Weird.
So one day I just came up to him at the office and I said, we have two options here. We can either learn to get along because we have friends in common, or or we can not get along, but I'm not going to take you being rude to me at work because it's disrespectful. And in the streets, I can be rude to you, but at work, I'm not going to be. So let's just keep it respectful. He agreed with me and we decided to become friends and we became actually best friends. We ended up living together in a house with other people, but we rented a house together. And I actually, when I became a supervisor, I took him under my wing and he had a rough learning curve, but I ended up helping him to become a supervisor as well. Some situations, they just work themselves out if you don't fight them.
Yeah. You acknowledge them and you try to confront them in the best way and in the
Yeah.
best mannerism in professionalism. And I think that's interesting because I think that there's multiple aspects to this that I have in my head as you're talking about. But one of the things is also in relation to the other lady is that you just said two examples that are very different. You said one example where a lady backstabbed you in the back and went all the way out and created a big scene and that end up going nowhere and you end up being the same path that you were supposed to be. So
Yeah.
it's saying as long as you do your work, it will show off and people will see it. And no matter
Mhm.
how many shades or people who are envious or don't like you, it wouldn't
Mhm.
stop you from growing within a company. And then the
Yeah.
other and that you mentioned right now, it's also being self-aware. It's the aspect of professionalism. And you
Hmm.
know that yes, I need to work with you. Yes, we need to learn how to coexist. I think this has something to do with also with our culture normally. When
Yeah.
women are more assertive, when women are more like show more character, more
Yes.
like tied, like I'm standing my ground, it's like a seen as a threaten. Actually, in any place of the world, it happens a lot, right? When you show assertiveness or you show I'm true to myself, but with not being a bad person and you confronting it as it is and laying the ground, having that honest conversation with that coworker is the best thing ever. Like sometimes it's just completely misunderstanding.
Hmm.
It sometimes it's just that simple things that I feel like people don't understand. And in HR perspective, I look at it and feel like a lot of times when people come and complain about another employee or coworker, I'm like, have you talked to this person? Have you had
Uh-huh.
the honest conversation of like what is
One.
happening? Because you don't need to bring a third parties if you haven't even tried. Like have you tried to amend? Have you tried to figure out what's happening? But I understand that not everybody has the strength or the courage to go on and
Yeah.
will be like, hey, what's up?
I can't really say that I did what I did knowingly. I'm thankful that was my reaction and that I feel like I myself learned so much from having that experience with a lady and with this other
Uh,
coworker who later became a friend because I was just learning how to live at that point. I had no idea and I've heard advice from parents or grandparents, uncles, older people and they give you whatever knowledge they have, but there's some things that the only way you can learn is when you go through them. And I'm just thankful that at that point in life, I had to add maybe what did help a lot actually was that I had gone to therapy
mm,
already. I had gone to therapy because I did have anger problems when I was younger, and I maybe would not have reacted that way when I was, say, maybe 19 or 18. If I had started working at that point in that kind of environment, maybe I would have reacted terribly. But just one more point for mental health: take care of what's inside, because if you're okay inside, if you're calm, if you're strong, and whatever comes in life, you not necessarily know how to handle, but you can try and you can manage.
right. What I've understood, I have not necessarily worked in a call center, but what I've
Hmm.
known, it's like a high school vibes. At least
Yes.
that's what I've ever heard. You
Yeah.
please tell me if I'm wrong or right, but I've heard it's like in call centers in Latin America, it's high school vibes. And then there's
Yeah.
certain envy levels where people, and
Mhm.
so there is a kind of sort of toxicity work environment aspect. And I wonder because you were new, a second wave, right? So you're new
Mhm.
with a new company who's starting. I wonder if that's with the toxicity was not there. And this was just simple things because they lack structure. I would like to for you to elaborate more about that work environment to work people that don't know about the call center and put it into a variable of how that affects your relationship when you work and your journey as you're going through that process. Because you just
Mhm.
mentioned 2 seconds ago, like you became a supervisor and you became the supervisor and a mentor of like that who did not like you, which is crazy, right?
What?
And
What?
so I'm wondering like how that whole mix of everything, the work environment, is even your HR department was even in the game or not, or it was just in the
Mhm.
back burner and nobody wanted to really talk to HR. If you could elaborate a little bit on that, would be awesome.
I would definitely describe a call center environment as a high school, no matter what age people at a call center work at. It's pretty much the same energy because it's a high amount of people. I would not say that this is particular to Latin America. The people who trained us in Nicaragua were from a call center that was here in New Mexico. So they brought a whole team of management and supervisors to train management. I did get to know some of the people. Our operations manager had been the operations manager in New Mexico. So he was an American and our site director was American. So it was very combined in the sense of culture, but definitely high school. There's just too many people, just human beings, close to human beings will create drama and talk amongst each other and make comments. I've only worked at that call center, but I've had friends who have worked at several. And I do feel like that the experience in most of them. Some are healthier than others, maybe. But in general, I guess it's just how it gets cultivated. If you try from the beginning to have something healthy happening, just the amount of people, it's like, viruses will spread.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's the same. And in the end, really, I feel like what led me to leave the call center was actually that environment, because it's not only in the base of it, like where all the most of the workers are, like the workforce per se, but it escalates because those are the people that get promoted to supervisors, to managers, to directors. So it permeates absolutely every area. And I would include human resources in my experience,
Wow.
but I believe in
No,
other people's experience as well. Yeah.
I think go back with two things. I want to acknowledge the fact that you just said how, it kind of the virus, the toxicity comes out and it spreads to
Mhm.
everybody. And it kind of resonates what you just said with your two examples, right? That you mentioned with your friend and then the lady, because your before friend show off a very negative aspect of you.
Ugh.
He played dirty, if you could say, in a way of like
Yeah.
presented
Yes.
himself in like, hey, like do this, but you like that would led to something else because he acknowledged later like that. Like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he knew what he was
yeah.
doing. He knew it wasn't like innocent. No, he was
Yeah.
trying to get me in
Yeah, so
trouble.
I find it
Out of
yeah, and that is crazy because you just said it. That's a very clear example of how toxicity happens. One person have a
Yeah.
disagreement with someone and sees an opportunity who has an issue with you. He takes convert to a whole nother thing, leading to someone
Yeah.
who is hardworking, loyal to the
Yeah.
company. He's really showing
Mhm.
up, right? Now is being
Yeah.
put in a bad view because of this. And it's crazy. The other thing I want to mention is you talk about your mental and therapy. All this conversation, I've realized that you're very self-aware. You're very aware of how you behave against around your people. You're ambitious in terms of like, this is what I want and I'm not gonna play the pre-pro and all this stuff. You just go to your goal and you stay in your lane.
Yeah.
I want to mention like wellness programs, and I'll talk about mental health and therapy. That is kind of like the new trend coming in. The big talks nowadays,
Mhm.
people more aware. But back when you were 22, right? That's 22 years ago. Wait, 18.
18. Wait, I didn't study
So
math in college. Yeah.
don't worry. Oh, okay. So, yeah, 18. So it was not such a thing. It was a taboo. Even if you,
It was completely taboo.
right. You
Yeah.
didn't go to the interview. Yes, I'm a great person. I'm ambitious, but also I have anger problems. They'd be like, hey, no, we don't want that.
Yeah.
But the fact that
Yeah.
you're reflecting upon it and you'd be like, hey, yeah, I had anger issues. I took some steps. And those steps that at that moment in time didn't connect the dots really helped me show up
Yeah.
to be a better person in the work environment.
Mhm.
Handle
Yeah.
things properly without any
Yeah.
sort of intervention, without nobody telling you what to do. It was just your
Mhm.
self-awareness, your growth within it. So I think kudos to you.
Yeah.
Kudos.
Oh, thank you. It was hard work. It was hard work.
Yes.
It still is.
You don't
Yeah.
wanna
I feel like now that it's something that people talk about a lot. Actually, I discussed it in the interview process for the job that I have now here in California. I was being interviewed by the manager that hired me. I don't know, we were talking about something, one of the questions, and I just naturally came out talking about I have anxiety and I deal with but I've learned how to handle it. So it is there. It's not like it's gone, but it doesn't take over my life or whatever. And then I feel like that was even just opening up about that in a job interview. Like, why I don't need to share my personal life, but if I'm being interviewed, also, like, I have to let me shine through the hiring. Like, you're going to hire a person that's going to be like this. And so you just got to know and
yeah.
be transparent. And I feel like communication is so important. It gets people in trouble when there is no communication. The basis of so many issues
Right.
in work and in life.
Yeah, I think like the whole highlight of this conversation, the fact that you're so self-aware, the fact that you just mentioned right now, you just recently have an experience in a hiring process. And part of who you are is being self-aware and saying, hey, like this is not oversharing, it's just acknowledging that these are things that come with the work environment, come within,
Yes.
and acknowledge and have a transparent conversation.
Mhm.
I think that's super important.
Yeah.
And it looks like a little glimpse of experiences that you have shared with us is definitely showing that self-awareness, it's number one thing that we need need to have as an employee. No matter if you're starting your career or later in your career, it's all about being self-aware of who you are, what type of person you are, and adding that up to taking care of yourself, which is
Yeah.
mentally and emotionally. You mentioned earlier again, the stress, anxieties, and so all this combination of stuff, it is important to take care of it. And I think that it's something that people need to be mindful of. Like, these are little tips of like, if you want to be a better employee, if you want to show up for people, you need to work on self-awareness. You
Yeah.
need to work on your mental and
Yeah.
emotional state. And you need to work on
Yeah.
communicating when you're not in the right state or when you are struggling. Because your
Yeah.
honesty right now in the hiring process, for me, it's like, if I'm hiring you and you're telling me in a casual conversation, like, hey, this is who I am. And now I know, okay, like, these are things that we need to work on. And these things I need to also, as a manager, as a leader, learn how to navigate those things with you. Not leave you
Yeah.
alone, rather than help you out and try to find ways to make things more comfortable in overall. The work
Yeah.
environment's already stressful. I don't need to be your stressor
Yeah.
extra. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 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 exactly. No, and even my manager now, he a month ago went through an experience where he had like a big anxiety, like a week, but like a week or 2 weeks where anxiety was like overpowering him. And in the end, we didn't know why he had been missing work, but we were like, okay, whatever. And then when he showed up, finally we had a meeting and he shared with us that he had been dealing with anxiety. And I feel that's great because thank you. I felt like I was being forgotten about. I felt like I'm new and I would like to have my manager close and helping and supervising and teaching. And then when you open up and you share that, I'm not judging you anymore. I don't think you're being a bad manager. I think you're being a good manager because you're handling yourself and you're communicating to us what's happening.
You're being human.
And then, yeah, exactly. That's all we need to be like, show our human side. Everybody wants to show how strong and how tough they are. And that's that kind of strength I don't believe is leadership. Like the kind of strength that leadership that shows leadership is just being strong enough to be you.
Right. Yeah.
And to give your skills when you can and to take what you need. And that's how we can go through life and improve.
So going back to your stories, do you think you have done things differently? Like, now that you look at yourself, what do you think you could have done things better or would have done the same? Or what type of support you would like to have had in that situation, especially for the lady that basically was responsible being kicked out of your mentorship program? So reflective mindset, like, what do you think could have helped you navigate that situation better? If that is even the case?
I can only answer that in the way of what I would do if I was in that situation now. If that situation happened to me now, because I think I handled it appropriately and to the best of my abilities at that moment. So I don't think I could have done anything differently because I didn't know how. What I do know now is that I would probably ask more questions because it did affect me in the sense that, okay, it didn't take me away from my path, which was to grow within the company, but it did take away a part, like something inside. Like, it's always been there in the back of my head because that kind of thing always stays with you. Like, somebody said something about me. I don't know what, I don't know who. So somebody said something about me, and yes, my answer is it can't faze me, but in another way, it does faze me because I still remember it and it's still a story I tell. So I would want to ask more questions because I would want to actually
speak up,
take it onwards and be like, I didn't get to defend myself because I didn't even know what situation I was in. And if I had the option where if HR had asked me, if they had come up to me and exposed the actual situation, if this guy who later became my friend would have come up to me and told me, hey, that lady told me this, I could have asked questions and I could have improved without needing to feel affected that way. There was no need to bring me down that way. I was young and I had so much energy, and it didn't take me down, but
no, but it does affect you because it does. At the end of the day, you just said it very beautiful. The fact that you didn't know any better, so you made decisions with the little knowledge that you had right at that point in time. You mentioned HR, and that's why I'll be like, your HR sucked. They went down and basically did something very questionable in terms of like, you had someone there who was supposed to protect you. And instead of protecting
Mhm.
you or even just being neutral, they did totally the
Mhm.
opposite.
Yeah.
Like I think that's one
Yeah.
of the things it bothers me in terms about HR. Is like people. This is why we have the terrible rep because people think like we favor people, and that's not true. Like at the end
Yeah.
of the day, it bothers me because you say you were not baited, but you are because it does. It's like that. That's a
Yeah.
terrible feeling. That's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
And like you're 22, you're doing everything, you're not hurting anybody, and then you suddenly have someone here who they took from you peace. They didn't take your energy because you came with the defense
Yeah.
mode of like, you know what, I'm gonna show you that I'm better than you, and I'm just gonna walk my walk. But they took peace from
Yeah.
you, and the fact that you didn't speak up at that moment in time of like, hey, like that's not right. By the way, you're 22, like. Like who's gonna listen to a 22-year-old girl versus a 40-year-old? Like that things that played in our head of like, but who's gonna listen to me or why should I even bother? They're not gonna pay attention to me.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does affect us because it
Yeah.
shows like sometimes staying quiet it makes things to go way faster rather than escalating. But the problem's already escalated.
Yeah.
So
Problem's there already. Whether you look at it or not, it's
yeah.
around.
Yeah, no, and it's
Yeah.
terrible. I'm sorry that you had that experience. I'm sorry that your HR was not there. Big example of how HR fails people. Simple.
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't want to kick on HR in
It's okay.
general, but HR at this company was so bad. I have so many more stories. I'm not even talking about becoming a supervisor yet. We're talking about the first 3 months of my life there. And I worked there for only 2 years. And I got there, I started as an agent, and I ended up becoming a junior operations manager in 2 years. The space to grow was most definitely there. And I wanted it hard enough that I got where I wanted to get to. But the environment was just mind blowing. It was like, in the end, I've only stayed friends with 1 or 2 people that I met. And I met at least 500 people minimum when I worked there. At some point, I was the manager for 250 people on the floor. You know what I mean? And the environment was so terrible that even when I decided to quit and just remove myself from the whole situation, still HR, even though in 2 years from an agent, I became an operations manager, HR just went like, oh, you want to quit? Okay.
Wow.
Oh, we'll accept your resignation right now if you want us to. And I said, yeah, you can do that. And then I just left the office and I never even said goodbye to anyone. So there's a lot and so much to learn from.
Yeah, I need to bring you over for another episode. I think you are bringing a lot of perspective about a lot of things. But I want to focus again in this episode, the fact that you're 22-year-old trying to thrive and you've been thrown rocks for no reason.
Yeah. I'd never seen it like that, but yeah.
The one thing you need to understand is your self-awareness, your communication skills, and asking for help or speaking up for you. It's the only way you will able to move forward with any problems you have. And it doesn't even matter what type of speaking up doesn't mean go make a big deal. Speaking up means saying your piece to the people that needs to be said. If someone did you wrong, hey, like this is you did blah, 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 blah. And it's not for them to understand how angry you are, but it's for you to move on from that situation. Ella did not have the time to speak up. She let it pass by. Now it's just like, if I had to go back, I would assume you'd be like, no, why are you kicking me out of my mentorship? I work hard. I put so much effort.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. I deserve it. Yeah, I deserve it. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I was now.
Like, Emma, you work hard. If you were put in that position and your manager saw you that you are capable and you have all the skill set in a short period of time, who is HR to not look into you as an actual performer? Again, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that someone just completely obliviously forgets how hard have you been working for the past couple of months and how good you have been improving your skill sets. And they just, with no mercy, took up a great opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. And it happened to so many people.
Yeah.
So many people, I'm sure.
It does. Of course it does. Because why? We don't speak up. Why we don't speak up? Because we don't think it's worth it. But then you have this experience in the back of your mind lingering, like, I'm angry at myself because I should have said something because I deserve that job.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was good at that job, and someone just did not me. And
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so important to know our worth too, because even through whatever I've gone through therapy. And I feel like the one thing at least I've kept is a healthy self esteem. I'm aware of my skills and my abilities, and I have faith in whatever I do. I can do a good job because I want to do a good job always. And so I feel hopefully people are able to see that in themselves as well, because sometimes we're thinking about what we lack instead of concentrating on what we have. And what we have is us, me. I have me, and me is a hard worker, fast learner, whatever. I lose concentration easily. I get distracted. I a squirrel. But that's okay because I have so many other strengths
yeah,
that I can rely on that. And I just, besides like everything you said, the communication and all that, I just say believe in yourself, because that's the first person you need to believe in you. After you believe in you, you can start getting
right.
people to also
Really, you.
believe in you.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm speechless because it's such a great story. I want to apologize from an HR department.
We're fault.
No, I no, but I feel like we need to mend things. HR needs to mend, and I acknowledge that we have in our profession people who are not good at their jobs, and we have clearly have seen one here today, and need to acknowledge that struggle that you went through. And so I'm so sorry for that. Sounds like you took this journey, this experience, and you look forward to it and you learn from it. Now looking into, and you looked up at very self-aware, you're very strong woman. You have accomplished a lot. The fact that you recently mentioned about your new hiring, congrats on that, your new job. I think
Thank you.
that's a good
Thank you.
thing.
Many stories to tell about that too.
Yeah.
So many HR
But
stories.
I feel that you are a power woman who knows her worth, who learned from her previous mistakes or questionable situations that you were put into, but because they were not even your faults, it was other people's fault. So kudos to you. I think great job of moving forward from that situation and embracing that situation. The fact that you take it and be like, yes, this happened to me. I have no feel ashamed. I take the whole control. I empower that. I've learned from it, right? And hold that story, own that story. I think that's very powerful. So my last question to you today is, do you have any tips or advices or anything you want people to know at the end of the day? Something that you want to tell the audience based on the experience they told us today?
I mean, I would say to the HR world and to the workforce in general, just don't believe everything you hear. Just always make sure that you have knowledge about what you're going to talk about. Don't talk just because you have opinions. Make sure your opinions are informed. And that can be something like at a work meeting or something, or it can be in your personal life, but make sure you always inform yourself. It's part of the communication process, having the knowledge to be able to share it. That, and just like I said before, always believe in yourself. Sometimes we're just simply not aware of everything we have to give.
Right.
Everyone has so much. Like, I feel like I learned from my nephews who are 13, my nieces who are 8. We have something to learn from anyone and everyone. And everything can be applied to the work life experience.
Yeah.
Just be open to it all.
Okay. Well, you heard that from Ella. She went through a lot. People listen to her. She knows better. She's very smart. But no. Thank you so much for today. We appreciate you. Thank you for telling the stories. 2 stories. It seems like you had more stories with that call center. Sounds like a horror story. You know, like Dracula Castle. You know, like there's multiple things happening. I don't know.
Halloween is coming, so it's the season.
It's the season.
Bunch of monsters everywhere.
Yeah, dude. We all have them, by the way, guys. We all have them. Nobody in this journey of career growth and trying to figure out what you want to do in life, we all have to go through these stories. And that's just one of more that we need to acknowledge and embrace, learn from it too. So that being said, thank you so much for staying with this episode with us. We appreciate you, and stay tuned for the next episode. And once again, thank you so much. Oh, by the way, guys, follow Eva. I will share her LinkedIn profile down below in this video. So stay tuned, guys. Bye.